So, as you might be able to tell by the length of my hair, time has moved on and I have not gotten to a hairdresser's for the same reason most people haven't. Chris from the future here. I would like to say that I changed my camera setup and forgot that my monitor was so far from the lens, hence I'm looking away from the camera for most of this. In the meantime, I've built a few different bikes and some of them have videos coming out, some of them don't, because it takes a long time to create a video for something, and sometimes I just want to build and not spend 3 or 4 times as long making it for a video. In this case though, I found a bike for my girlfriend, which is fairly small. She's quite petite, and the idea was to build it up as a sort of cheap gravel bike. That bike was a giant Kinesis, and whilst Kinesis mountain bike, sorry, and whilst the frame was quite nice and everything, the reach was just too long, and I never really had this sort of problem myself because generally the frames are not too long. For me, I can always kind of work around it, but for her, anything over this length, which I believe is around 50 centimeters or so. Oh, sorry, it's less, it's 47 centimeters. Anything more than that with drop bars just becomes too much of a reach for her. And I looked around for other mountain bike frames and I couldn't find anything in the sort of smaller sizes that would really work for her, especially not the older sort of geometry of mountain bike. So I ended up finding this. This is a Kinesis Crosslight CX1. So it's a cyclocross frame, but it has plenty of mounting points for bottle cages and racks and things like that, and it seems to, well, it's disc brake, that means I can use 27.5s or 26-inch tyres in it, because with 700Cs, again, it's starting to become a problem with the step over height. Even though this is a tiny frame, she has very low step over. So there's lots of different sort of technical issues to work around. And originally my plan was to use the gears that were on the drivetrain that was on the Kinesis, which was like a 3x8, and just throw on some road shifters onto that, because the Shimano 8-speed stuff is compatible between road and mountain bike. And I actually got some RX 100 shifters for that, but then when I got a new frame I was like, maybe I get some new shifters, so I do have some newer components, but I'm still sticking with a 8-speed for now. One thing that I've done is I had a 3x chainring, and I've actually adapted it into a 2x, so changed some chain rings around. And I've got some Claris shifters with integrated gear cables, which have a better pivot point for smaller hands, which is one of the other issues. A lot of the older shifters, the pivot point on them is actually in the wrong position for small hands, so when you try and squeeze it, if the pivot point is too far down, what happens is you end up just kind of squeezing against the pivot point instead of pivoting. So this pivot point position actually works for my girlfriend's hands. Older ones don't. For example, the Tiagra 4600, which I have lying around somewhere, the pivot point on that just doesn't work for her. She couldn't stop her road bike with those on. Anyways, other bits and pieces. I've got a Vitus fork, which I got from Wiggles eBay, and this was for a Vitus Energize, but works pretty well with this frame in its looks. What else? Got some TRP Spire brakes somewhere, which are cable operated, but they are dual piston, so dual caliper, so they squeeze from both sides of the disc. So yeah, I'm going to be building up this bike, and I'll pause at some point when I need to talk again, but other than that I'm just going to be working through it. And apologise, I just realised I've been staring at my screen and not at my lens for the last 10 minutes, so sorry if I look like I'm looking above you. But yeah, it's what happens when I have to practice at looking at the camera. Oh, one other thing. I have already set these up, but I'm using a 26-inch rear wheel with these Conti Ride Tour tyres, which I got for like £6 new, with a 650B front wheel, also with Ride Tour tyres. I'm running a Mullet setup basically, so I'm going to be running 27.5 650B on the front and 26 on the back. This frame actually has, let me see if I can, this frame actually has like a divot here for the clearance for 700C wheel. And we might try 700C if she gets used to the standover height on this, which is a lot higher than her road bike. But otherwise, if you run a 27.5 on the back, you actually have less clearance than the 700. Whereas if you run a 26, you're kind of around the same clearance. So they're all different things that I need to try out when we actually finish it and get it out on the road. So yeah, I'm going to start this build and see how it goes. Final touch. And I think that's a wrap. Put ahead before I put lights on. So yeah, that only took 5 minutes. Honestly though, I set it up, took it out, make sure things were actually working, had my partner go out, ride it, check that everything was in the right position. I had to use a different stem. So it's not like you can throw one of these together and it'd be perfect right away. So I started it yesterday and finishing it today. But yeah, looks pretty cool. SLX, 8-speed rear derailleur, TRP Spire brakes, a strange collection of chainring parts. We have Claris 8-speed shifters. Oh, I forgot. 105 front derailleur. I would say it looks quite fun. It's definitely going to be visible from a distance. Right now it's riding Mullet, so we'll try that out and then might decide to switch to full 27.5, see how it goes.